So I'm going to tell you a story, and you probably wonder what dragons have to do with public goods funding. So that's a fair question. I will assume that you know what public goods are and what public goods funding is. To summarize, public goods are the goods that defined by economists as non-rivalrous and non-excludable, which means that when one person consumes a public good, it doesn't detract it from other person consuming the same public good, and there is no entity that can stop other people or entities consuming the same public good. So the classical example of public goods are open source software, protocol upgrades like Ethereum, security, peace are all the examples of public goods. Now, to the story. So dragons are these magical creatures that are found in all kinds of stories and mythologies. So everybody loves dragons, and if you look into crypto, you will be able to find some dragons in this space as well. So in our organization, we define dragons as projects that received substantial funding, especially during the ICO period. And while their treasury grew over time, they were sitting on this capital as dragons sit on a pile of gold, because that's what dragons do. They sit on a pile of gold and they give it away. And these projects usually have substantial influence on shaping direction and potential of the crypto ecosystem. If we take this analogy one step further, we can see modern-day dragons everywhere. Modern tech corporations and hedge funds are the dragons that shape the algorithms and govern our digital interactions and dominate the markets. The algorithms are usually closed source. You don't know how the social networks work. You don't know how the matching mechanisms work. The hedge funds have access to more information than retail. They have better access to computational technology that allows them to execute trades at the faster pace and doesn't allow some retail traders to compete with them. So the stock market and other markets are not in a fair position for ordinary people. There are other dragons who are just wealthy individuals who wield significant influence over industries, and they're not necessarily bad. They, as their mythical counterparts, can be self-serving and benevolent and help the industry move forward. So let me take a step back and talk about something called financial nihilism. So recently there was this conversation in Twitter and online about this term, and how it relates to crypto is a lot of people in crypto, they are here for get-rich-quick mentality. And it's easy to dismiss it as something that's harmful or useless, but if we look deeper, there is a context. The behavior is a response to systemic economic challenges. If you look at the statistics, you will realize that young people are in much tougher position than previous generations. The millennials have much smaller amount of capital or real estate than Generation X had in their age. And if you go even further back to baby boomers, they would have even baby boomers had even bigger amount of real estate and capital at the same age. And this is all the results of economic challenges and the crisis that happened in 2008. And so financial nihilism is this idea that goes hand in hand with idea of populism, which basically the underlying idea of it, if the system doesn't work for me, I'm going to do something else. And that's what populism is about. It talks to people, promises them some promised land. And financial nihilism is a way for people to get out of poverty, because they don't see a way to start a family or buy a house just working. They gamble. They go in crypto and they invest in volatile assets, they invest in magic assets, hoping for 10x return or 20x returns. And It's important to understand this mentality, not just to dismiss it. So Degens embrace risk and innovation. All the dragons, they hold the majority of the capital. The value originally comes from the community as a signal. That's something we want you to build. And then treasury grows over time in the hands of these dragons. They embody the spirit of innovation and risk-taking. You probably heard about what happened 3 years ago when the stock market with the stock called GameStop, where it went very much up. The problem with that, if you're not familiar, a lot of hedge funds were shorting this stock because they thought this company would basically die, and then they mismanaged the company to destroy those companies and don't even return the borrowed money that they used to short this position. And there was this Wall Street Bets subreddit where people were discussing the investments, and it turned into this anti-establishment movement where people were investing against the hedge funds. They were betting against Wall Street. And if you watch a movie called Dumb Money, or you can watch a documentary on Netflix, they actually, in a way, won. They were able to show the power of the community to Wall Street, and they were able to change the rules of the game because they couldn't win the game of the Wall Street. And in crypto, we have these Degens who wear this name almost as a shield, saying, yes, I'm a Degen, so what? Doesn't mean I don't deserve a chance for a better future. And they embrace it, although it comes from this kind of idea of degenerative behavior, but it all comes down to chaos, and the chaos that just can lead us possibly to new trends and paradigm shifts. So, okay. So Degens are risk takers with remarkable coordination potential, and dragons are entities that hold significant capital. We want to create capital-efficient mechanisms and games to engage with Degens while simultaneously funding socially impactful ventures and public goods. And on top of that, we can use collective intelligence to signal impactful projects and ideas through quadratic funding and similar mechanisms. Right now, we can see the rise of Web3 social media on platforms like Forecaster. All this information is public and open, which allows us to analyze this information and reward the people who create a positive impact. But also the problem with the public goods funding space is people generally don't care. They don't understand why they should care. And Degens are the people who are trying to, they're kind of the moving force of this industry. A lot of this is speculation, but this is the choice that our generation is making. And they're making this choice because they want to get out of poverty. They want to make sure that they have a sustainable future. So we need to meet people where they are and use this remarkable coordination potential to kind of slightly move this energy in a different direction. So now, I think it works from the third time. Okay. I don't even want to comment on this. This is the quote that is old as the world. With great power comes great responsibility. When you have a lot of power, when you have a lot of capital, you have great responsibility. And right now we are in this place where, because of the network effects and market changes in the immersion of new technologies, a lot of tech companies, they have enormous capital. And these are the dragons. These are the dragons of the tech space. There are the dragons in the crypto space. And obviously, they need to recognize their responsibility and need to take action to move into the positive direction. Okay. So the first dragon is born. Golem Foundation is a project that has a large treasury from a successful token swap in 2016. What we're doing is we're staking 100,000 ETH, which is, well, when I was writing this presentation was around 300 million. Right now it's closer to $400 million. And what we're doing, we're creating a renewable, sustainable funding stream. It's important to recognize that donation-based public goods funding is not sustainable. So we need mechanisms that create sustainable streams, and capital is one way to achieve this. So we stake this capital, which generates around 1,000 ETH per quarter or 4,000 ETH per year, and we use that to fund public goods. We create a product called Octant. Octant's mission is to create the first self-sustaining global public goods funding ecosystem that balances common good and financial empowerment. And we believe this is possible to create win-win scenarios. Okay. Is there like problem? Okay. So a little bit about mechanics of Octant and how it works. So Octant runs in recurring public goods funding rounds called epochs and rewards user participation. As you can see on this diagram, Golem Foundation stakes capital in Ethereum proof-of-stake consensus protocol that generates rewards and send them to the Octant product. The distribution of funds from staking is divided between match rewards that goes to public goods funding projects and user rewards. The user participation goes through GLM token time locking. So these are the users that are eligible to participate in the system and get rewarded in taking an action into the public goods funding space. So the idea of this is participant, they can claim user rewards or give them to public goods or give the percentage of the user rewards to the public goods. The difference though is when you claim your user rewards, you just can take them and go home. But if you decide to give away part of that, donate or invest in public goods, your leverage is different. So if you decide to give away 1%, because of the way how mechanism work, it gets matched with, for example, 20x. So if you choose to fund a project like Protocol Guild, for example, and you give 1 ETH, 20 ETH from the matched fund gets matched with your 1 ETH, and this project will get 21 ETH, which gives you, as a user, a lot of power to decide what kind of projects you want to fund. And obviously, nobody's stopping you from just taking the money and going away. This is an experiment that we have been running, and we observe different levels of participation and different levels of donating to public goods. The biggest part of this capital obviously comes from the matched funds. The projects that get funded, they are chosen by the community. There is like a community voting process that defines what project is going to be funded. Okay, so what we achieved so far. Up until now, we have been running Octant for around 10 months. So we had 3 epochs, 3 rounds, 3 months each. The total budget was around 2,400 ETH, which was, at the moment of writing this presentation, around $7 million. The total budget, they distributed between users and the public goods projects, is 1,250 ETH, which was, again, at the moment of writing, around $3.8 million. Public goods received 840 ETH, and users received the half of it, approximately 420 ETH. We funded around 29 projects. Some of those projects, they are recurring, so it means they were in the first epoch and they were going into the second epoch. Some projects were just in one of the epochs, and it's important to note that I didn't say it on the previous slide, that this is not a passive income for users. They need to participate, so they need to come at least once in 3 months and express their preference. Whether their preference is I'm going to take my money and go home, or my preference is I'm going to take 95% of the money and go home, and 5% are going to go to the project that I chose. We also ran impactful and aligned community rounds. There was round with Shi-Fi project and Green Pill Network, which allowed to onboard some of the people into the public good space and kind of tell the story why it's important. You can see the logos of some of the projects that are funded. Most of them are from the Ethereum ecosystem and crypto space, which is logical because we are in the crypto space. There's a Tor browser that is like general internet public good project. If you're interested to see more projects, you can scan the QR code in the end and see them on our app. So that's where we are right now. This is Octant v1. And Octant v2 is something we're working on right now. The working title is Degens and Dragons. So we want to empower more dragons, more people with the capital to create efficient mechanism for active provision of capital towards public goods projects. We want to create more sustainable funding streams. We want to empower this project to use their tokens and their capital to combine it together and fund more public goods, and recognize that if we create this at larger scale, we can create much larger impact. We want to mobilize the existing community of, let's say, Degens, who are right now mostly interested in financial gains, which is understandable, but they also want to have fun and enjoy this process. I was talking about like Wall Street bets before, and I talked to some people who participated in this movement 3 years ago. What they told me was that like that was the most fun I had in my life, because that's a part of our life journey, to enjoy the process, enjoy our life. And I think we should enjoy our life. I think we should make people financially empowered and maybe move this a little bit, also some of the energy towards thinking about bigger problems we are facing right now. Yes, so we need to extend existing mechanism of preferences aggregation through mobilizing the Degen community and tap into that potential. So to summarize, I'd like to say that we are living in very like unprecedented times, and we are facing a lot of catastrophes and potential challenges. Like if you even look at the last 5 years, there are so many shifts happen, and any day, any week, any month, a new technology can come up that changes the weight of powers. A new disease, a new war, a bank run. All of these events happened in the last 5 years, and they unfortunately probably will happen more and more and at a faster pace. Even if we just look at what happened with COVID, if we look what happened with the recent wars. So we need to recognize that unused capital shouldn't just stay and be stagnant in bank accounts. We need to understand that we all have the responsibility to think bigger and dream bigger, and realize that it's in our hands how the world will look like in 5, 10 to 20 years. So if the approach of mobilizing the capital done at scale, it can create significant results. There is this saying that public goods are good in our space, and I agree with that. But I also think that public goods are bold. Public goods don't ask for our attention, they demand our attention. And there is a way to connect people to this notion, because generally people think about public goods as something not related to them, something that governments take care of, like parks and schools, and that's not about me. But actually we all consume that, and what your like private capital or a car or a house gonna give you if your heaven's on fire. So but I'm optimistic, and I think we have a lot of good projects in the space that experiment, and at some point we'll be able to export these ideas outside of crypto as well. Unleash the dragon. Thank you. Happy to take any questions. Yeah.
I didn't understand where the Degens. Yeah, sorry. I didn't understand where I understood the dragon part of it, which is the large unused ETH from the ICOs.
Right.
But I haven't understood where the Degens fit in exactly in this entire model and in this picture. It was a good thing to connect both these groups, but I didn't get the exact way that they're connected.
So if we look at the V1 at the current representation, you can think about the community that right now receive the rewards also is a Degen community in a way, right? It's like the first nascent iteration because these are the people who are just who are interested in rewards. So we already incentivizing them to look into the public goods projects because that's the journey they go through when they claim their rewards. We're saying, hey, this is your reward for being the valuable community member, and these are the project we are funding. If you want to, as you withdraw the funds, give them to public goods. But that was like what we were working on already before. What we're looking towards to is this new coordination potential that happens in Farcaster that we can utilize to capture users' attention towards public goods and create this interplay between Degens and Dragons. So you can think about it even as a game. We don't know exactly how it's going to look like, what kind of mechanics is going to be there. It's an evolution, but we want to create a story that is compelling to users, that incentivizes them to play the game, whether it's in the social interactions on Farcaster, through different new technologies that we already have, like frames, et cetera, that allows people to take certain action, and over time move it towards more interactive experiences where people present it at some point through the educational materials, through the choice to who to vote on, like what projects to fund, to express their opinion, and in this way kind of capture the collective intelligence. So that's kind of like the democratic part of it.
Hi there, my name's Paul Imsia. I'm on the board of the DIVE Foundation, and we've been looking at these sort of questions for quite a while now. The question I have for you, though, is regarding the reporting and the monitoring and the SLAs and all this other good stuff to make sure that the contributions by Dragons to Degens and vice versa actually adds value to the protocol. There's been decades of research done on public-private projects in the public sector and the government sector. So I'm just wondering what sort of processes and tools are you using to make sure that some of these projects are value accretive to the protocol?
Valuable to which protocol exactly? Like to our protocol or?
Wherever, I mean, you're talking about alliances between Degens and Dragons. If there's going to be, if you're supporting projects, how are you making sure that the contributions are actually value accretive to whichever strategy or objectives you're trying to reach? Yeah,
that's a very valid question. So when we started this, we just create like an open survey for people to come and join, and we started funding the projects that kind of generally recognized as they created value in this ecosystem. Projects like Gitcoin, for example, we were just streaming some of funding to them, or projects like DAO Drops, Protocol Guild. And that's the first thing that we've done. Right now we're working on metrics, so we are talking to the project and asking them what kind of metrics they think they should be measured with, because the first two iterations were basically just giving money away and seeing what happens, because we didn't have a reliable way to measure this. And a lot of the projects that received the funding were based on trust. Like the first 10 projects that received funding, we talked to those people, we met them in person, we looked them in the eye, we analyzed and studied what they were doing. So the Protocol Guild, for example, is the project that funds Ethereum protocol development, you probably know this, and they have like a 4-year vesting contract, smart contract. So we met the people who created this, and we assume that this is going to create positive externalities. Some of the other projects, like Hypercert Foundation, is the same. So this is a very hard problem, and in our next iteration, we want to create like a metrics garden, similar to what Optimism is doing, in order to measure better how the funds are spent. Yeah.
One question from my side. Thanks, Artem, for presentation. So, how do you do fundraising? How do you create some kind of a campaign, or you just reach out to potential donors, or how does it look like? Like this three funding rounds that you did. How does it look like?
So the funding comes from staking rewards. So we don't need to raise funds. We have a capital that we plug into Ethereum proof of stake consensus protocol that generates returns. The 35% of this returns go into the matched funding. So that's everything that goes to the public goods projects. Another part, which is like there is a mathematical formula that calculates the user participation and user rewards. And so that part goes to the users. And then they, from these funds, they decide who to fund and how to move the match funding. So we don't need to do any fundraising. It's the sustainable like mechanism that generates the let's say revenue stream and funnels it into the public goods funding project. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, that's how it works. Okay, I'm on time, so thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.